We also have a gift from Picnic in the Park of $1,500 to the Recreation gift account, and Raymond C. Holland, $1,000 to the Beatty Center gift account. We are grateful for all. Then we also are issuing some one-day special licenses. Saltbox Farm on August 10th from 2 to 5 p.m. at 40 Westford Road, wine and malt beverages. Vero Farm has two events, one on August 7th and the other on August 24th, both from 6 to 8, both at 11 Wheeler Road, also wine and malt beverages. And the final piece here is Concilium Partners on the 24th of July from 11:30 a.m. to 7 p.m. at 246 Ornac, wine and malt beverages, rain date of it says 6/5, and I probably think that's not true.
That'd be 8/5.
I think it's probably 8/5.
That was it rained out on 6/5.
So this is the rain date.
Yeah.
This is the rain date. Okay. Let's hope it's clear sky.
I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. And now we have our town manager's report from Kate.
I'm Kate Hodges, the assistant town manager. The town manager, Chris Whalen, is out for this week and will return on the 17th. So the Bruce Freeman Rail Trail Phase 2 groundbreaking will be held this Friday, the 14th at 1 p.m. The parking is at the West Concord Village, and parking is also available at the commuter lot, but people are encouraged to walk or ride their bicycles. Regarding the paving project that was talked about and scheduled for this summer for the Keyes Road and Walden Street lots, as well as the Church Street parking lot. The paving companies are very, very busy and out straight, and many of our regular vendors that we used weren't able to bid because they were just far too busy to be able to meet the timeline. So the bids that we did receive were much higher than expected, and so Rich Rain, the Public Works Director, has decided to hold off on those three larger paving projects until next spring so that he can negotiate a price that's more in line with what we were thinking. The Lowell Road culvert box began installation today, and so we should expect about a week's worth of traffic impact on Lowell Road, where there'll be shuttling cars up onto the edge and to the sidewalk. But they're hoping that that will be completed in about a week's time. Sleepy Hollow Phase 1 pre-construction meeting was held this morning, and providing all goes well, that should be completed by the end of the summer. The fire department moved back into the West Concord Fire Station on 7-5, which is wonderful, and we are coordinating the removal of the temporary station, which should take about 3 days, and we'd like to do that so that it has no impact whatsoever on the groundbreaking. So we're in communication with the company for that. Replacement of engine 4, we're due to receive that by the end of the month, and the replacement of ambulance number 3, we're due to receive that at the end of August. And we are steadily receiving payments from our insurance company, and thankfully, thus far, there's been no hiccups there. The RIT department, now that they have West Concord Fire Station up and running, is moving on to the Knox Trail facility, where they are going to be issuing a request from vendors to see how much it would cost to remove all the old cabling. There's many, many different levels of cabling for many systems that were in and out of whomever it was that was occupying those buildings, and we're going to have a hard time getting ours in without removing those first, safety hazard. So we'll be working on that. And the library is hosting their first concert on the lawn of the main library this Wednesday at 7 p.m. and I am told it's a polka band.
A polka.
Yes.
There we go.
So, and I believe that is everything for now.
That's great. Any questions from the board?
The Hanscom Field evacuation, did that impact the town in any particular way?
Sorry.
No, it didn't impact us directly, although they were in communication with our fire chief and police chief. And so the fire chief did call and alerted the town manager's office.
It does sound like there was a lot of caution and that they handled it with a lot of protection in mind, which I must say I appreciated.
Yes, yeah, and so they had a 1,500-foot zone that they put out around that, and so there was a little impact on Virginia Road, only that it basically touched there, but we didn't hear from anyone in the area that there was anything noticeable. It was just an abundance of precaution.
And
Right.
that's kind of the reason, that situation is exactly the reason why they really are trying to move the redesign of that gate as quickly as possible. The state is trying to transfer land to the federal government to give to the Air Force. You can imagine how long that's taking. Because their vehicle inspection zone, where that truck was pulled over, and you make that 1,500-foot radius, well, the medical facility for the base is like right next to that driveway. So that's why they rather move that zone further up the road so that radius is, won't cause as much impact, but that's it.
And
I
I-
also noticed that the state budget passed and that they noted that there'll be higher employer health care costs. So it's probably something we're going to need to keep an eye on. And that they didn't do anything with the Airbnb, which has been kind of an issue here, so.
So our finance director has told us that the Minuteman Neshoba Health Group, which is part of the consortium that we have our health insurance through, is exploring a number of different options, including the high deductible plans, which for families can be really advantageous. And so, they're hoping to have an update for us, at least for the senior management team and the town manager to review. And that wouldn't be, we wouldn't get rid of the plans that we have now, but it would be another thing that employees may or may not be able to take advantage of
Right.
if they want. So it's another option.
And
I
they
would-
didn't add funds to the community preservation
No.
act either, so.
So I have to interrupt because I was remiss in not reminding everybody that we're being recorded. So we are now officially being recorded. Any other comments? All right, moving right along. So I would like to, do I hear a motion? We have a public hearing in front of us.
I moved open the public hearing on discussion of recommendation to transfer the town's right of first refusal.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I believe it's come to our attention that we're not quite ready to continue with this discussion tonight, and so I now request a motion. Sorry.
Before you close the hearing on this, I'm Henry Dane.
Yep.
And I'm here.
Come on up, Henry.
Come on up to the mic. I apologize for not having turned this to the public.
Thank you. I represent the sellers of this property, the Irwin brothers, trustees of the trust that own this property. I had a phone call this afternoon from Greg Peterson, who is the attorney for the land trust. And he told me that there were two issues that had to do with the title of the property that arose from the settlement of the estates of the parents of the Irwin brothers. And he said that so these might take a while to straighten out. These were issues I was not aware of before. And he said that more time would be required. That should not affect what this board does, because the only deadline that this board is facing is that they must either record a exercise of the right of first refusal or a notice of an assignment of that right of first refusal before August 1st. And whether you vote on that today or 2 weeks from today makes absolutely no difference. But it does just, if you just put it off for really, for reasons that don't seem to make much sense at this point. It just slows down the process. These are problems that, if they can be solved at all, can certainly be solved in the time between now and August 1st, when the land trust will decide to exercise, and during the 90 days that they have after they give notice of exercise to close on a purchase and sale agreement, which they will present when they give the notice of exercise. So if these problems can't be solved in the 100 days between now and a closing, they probably can't be solved at all. And of course, we have every motivation to solve them. But if we can't, and we don't, and they don't want to exercise their option, we do have a buyer who is the original buyer, who is obligated to close with us on, in August on this transaction. And my client would like to sell the property as promptly as possible, because already as of August 1st, they will have waited 120 days from the signing of the purchase and sale agreement. So my request of you is that you go forward with whatever you're going to go forward with, and record either your notice of, those are the two options you have. The two options you have is either to record the notice of exercise on behalf of the town, which I assume you will not do, but you can, or record your notice of assignment, which in effect which really does not affect the position of the land trust.
I appreciate your position, Henry. Did you want to,
Well, that's not why we're
or not?
postponing the hearing closure. We're doing that because there's language differences in two documents about our notice of intent. And so we're postponing till next Monday, taking action so we can clean the language up in the document. And that's why we're moving it to next Monday.
Well, then I was misled by Mr. Peterson as to why the request for the postponement was being made.
But I would like to, on behalf of the board, thank your clients. They hosted us for a site visit and a walkthrough last
It was Friday?
Last Friday. That was nice of them.
Yes. It was a lovely,
But the reason we're postponing this is so that we can get the language between the two documents in sync, so we don't screw up.
Fair enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So I move to, what's the correct language? Not close.
Continue.
Continue the public hearing until July 17th.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. And so now we have another public hearing.
I move to open the public hearing on the conduit petition from Verizon New England.
Here a
Second. Sorry.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All right, so we have somebody, welcome. Please state your name and,
My name is David Pash. I'm a representative for Verizon. And the petition is it's part of the Chapter 166 project to move cables from aerial to the underground. This particular job is going to place a section of conduit to connect from manhole number 7 to equipment for Verizon, a crossbox. The conduit will run from the manhole over to the sidewalk and then proceed down the sidewalk approximately 40 feet to the existing Verizon equipment pad.
okay, and I see a number of requests in here, and have you spoken to Concord Municipal Light Plant?
Personally, I have not.
Has there been discussion about this project?
As far as I know that there has, I was not the engineer on the job. I have spoken with Al Bassett, who's the right-of-way manager, and as far as I know, all the contingencies and conditions are being followed. He received this memorandum from, I believe this was from Concord Concord Light.
Public Works and
There's one
Concord
from
Light,
Public Works.
And one from the light.
and one from the light plant.
Yeah.
Yep.
And he received this, and I was looking through this, and it's all for Verizon Construction. It's typical practices that they would be following these conditions that were set forth by the town.
We have a representative from the light plant
Oh,
here, so we.
great. Wonderful. Sorry, I didn't recognize you.
Hi, Assistant Town Manager, members of the board, and Chair. My name is Jeff Cosgrove. I'm the electrical engineer for the Concord Light Department. We did speak with Verizon engineer John Bowler previous to this meeting. And again, just to emphasize, it is in their, I believe the town's best interest is where they're trying to, fulfill their obligations to underground. And I believe right now the focus is on Harrington Ave as a part of this project on Old Marlboro. The Light Department does support the petition. The one thing we just wanted to emphasize is that moving forward, we would like to have a pre-construction meeting prior to the actual work being done. Again, we're flexible as far as a date and a time.
I assume that can be worked between you?
Yeah, I can, and I have contact with John Bowler, who's the Verizon engineer for the job, and I can pass all that information along. I did speak with him prior to the hearing as well, so he is aware of the hearing, he's aware of the project and everything too, so.
Any other questions from the board?
How long will the project take?
That, I am not sure, that's something, that'd be a question for
Months,
Verizon
6
Construction.
days, yeah.
I can try to get a ballpark
Just order
figure.
of magnitude.
What was
It's not
it?
a month-long project.
That
You don't know.
I
Okay.
can't speak to. I'm not part of the Verizon contract. I can't speak to the exact time frame of that. I apologize. I can try to pass your request along though and try to get some information.
Sure, I'm
sent
just
over to you.
curious how long.
It's
we're
always
gonna be.
helpful for the residents to know.
Yeah, it's a small section. I don't expect that it would take that long, but I don't know the exact time frames.
Thank you.
So it's three new conduit running from the manhole to the cabinet, but is it all pretty much dedicated to Verizon, right? There's no, I don't see the town being near this run of the conduits at all?
The town. What was it? Sorry.
This is all dedicated exclusively to Verizon?
Yes.
Okay.
The conduits. Yeah, that we're representing right here are for Verizon.
Okay. Yeah, if it was like shared or something, I would have definitely recommend you always throw in a few more conduit. Never hurts.
So are we already, so is all about the utility wire now underground?
It is along that section of Old Marlboro Road between.
So this will parallel our current conduit?
Yes.
Ready?
Yeah, we didn't get them done at the same time.
I know.
Digging up the street twice.
Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none.
I move to close the public hearing.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I move to grant permission to install underground conduit and cable to be owned by Verizon New England, Inc. along the Old Marlboro Road Public Way in Concord as requested in the petition. Plan marked Verizon Job 1A1P8TE dated June 1st, 2017, and subject to the conditions set forth by Concord Public Works and Concord Municipal Light Plant.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you both.
Thanks for
you.
coming.
Thank you very much.
Okay. And now we have a W.R. Grace access easement update. Kate, I'm going to look to you. No?
So Anderson and Krieger, who are our attorneys of record and deal with the majority of our land deals, have exchanged drafts of the easement with the folks from W.R. Grace and are in agreement on most of the terms except for two. The first is the mechanics of coordinating Grace's work with Kearsarge Solar Facility. The attorney, Mina, believes that he's worked out a solution with Kearsarge regarding this, so he doesn't really believe that it's going to be a problem, but he can't say that the issue is 100% resolved yet because they don't have it down on paper and Grace hasn't agreed to it.
Okay.
And I believe that he will be working on that this week, and likely we'll have an update to the town manager next week sometime.
That sounds like something we'll put on the agenda again for next week.
Seems like that could be reasonable. And the other is vehicular access to the property for Grace. So Grace has asked that the town install 3 gates in the fence around the solar facility. And Anderson and Krieger are still reviewing that request with Kearsarge. Mina had a call scheduled with them on Friday of last week, but he and I haven't been able to connect this week for any length of time. So Mina asked also that Rich Rain, our DPW director, Dave Wood, CMLP's director, and Chris Roy, the assistant director of CMLP, review Grace's request and see what they could do, how much it's going to cost, and what the splitting of the cost for that would be.
Okay, what was the,
Reason.
why?
Right.
I don't know. I don't know why they say that they need 3. I think for quite some time it was thought that they only needed 2 on each end
Right.
of. So I'm not sure what the addition of the 3rd one is, and I think that those are the questions that that Rich Rain and Dave Wood are asking.
So can you just help me understand, right, is there already a fence around the solar field?
Yes,
And so they're asking that 2 or more gates be put in,
correct.
probably to access a wellhead?
They're wellheads.
Yeah.
And this is not for vehicular traffic, this is just for somebody walking in to do their test well?
No, they want to be able to get a vehicle in, and I don't know whether that's to service the well or for testing. So I don't believe that we're
Probably
talking
both.
enormous
Probably
trucks,
both.
but I think that they want to be able to drive out there to do those things. So, I think Rich and Dave will likely, again, follow up once they have more information.
We'll get an update a little later.
Yep. All right. Well, thank you. And now I think that we are ready to update our committee charge for the Concord Housing Development Committee. And that, I believe, sorry. Oh, absolutely. Sure.
Diane Proctor, 57 Sudbury Road. Kate, why are we paying? Why are we paying for HR Grace to have access to something? I don't understand that concept. I mean, if they want access to their wells, I mean, they're the ones that have made this land so possibly polluted. Shouldn't they be responsible for?
I believe that's one of the
Any access?
conversations that's ongoing.
Okay.
Don't believe the town at this point has made any commitment to paying for any of that. I think that they're in discussions with Kearsarge because the idea was that they will need to get access to the wellheads after this comes up, but there was never a plan that I'm aware of in place for the town to fit the bill for that. I'm not involved in this project other than just filling in for the town manager, so I can't answer exactly why, but when going over everything to make sure that I had an update that was reasonably appropriate, there was nothing that I saw that we said, sure, we'll fit the bill for that.
Sorry, thank you very
No.
much.
Any other comments? Okay. So, on to our committee charge for Concord's Housing Development Committee. Are we ready to
Sure.
discuss?
I think there has been some conversation about the charge for the Concord Housing Development Corporation. And just real quickly, a little history. The first charge from the select board was issued in 2006, and was pretty clear about defining the role of the corporation through, based upon the state legislation that was passed, giving it corporate status and all the requirements and tasks that it would be allowed to do. More specifically, in our conversation for today, it was pretty clear that in the description of November 26, 2006, that mentions first sentence, the intent, however, is that there be a real partnership between the Board of Selectmen and Board of the CHDC in furthering the affordable housing interests in Concord. The CHDC will be responsible for conducting its activities in a manner that is in compliance with all relevant state and local laws and regulations, including but not limited to open meeting law, public records law, and conflict of interest law. I don't believe anyone at this table would have a conflict with that statement.
Nope.
So that was to 2006?
Yes.
And it somehow
Yes.
got dropped in 2009?
Yeah, in 2009, I forwarded you the three versions, the
Right.
third being the proposed change, as well as a link to CCTV video link where the select board in 2009 had that discussion. I think it was almost a simplification at that time that it got taken out using the sentence of, CHDC will be responsible for conducting activities in a manner that is compliant with all relevant state, local laws
Period.
and regulations, period. But, these days, I think the town has been feeling very strongly about making sure we have the transparency and so on. And I don't see any conflict there with kind of bringing that wording back so that I think it'd be a great thing for the corporation in general to, if we add back in the sentence, well, I also realized I wanted to include that the sentence that the CHCC will be responsible for conducting activities in a manner that is in compliance with all relevant state and local laws and regulations, period. And then move into the notwithstanding the select board's acknowledgement that CHDC is a private entity, but the board and the CHCC has agreed to conduct business in a manner consistent with the open meeting laws, public record law, in interest of enhancing public interest in CHDC's activities and improving public access to information concerning affordable housing in Concord. The CHCC will be permitted to schedule and hold executive sessions to discuss value of real estate if negotiations are underway, and to discuss litigation and a limited number of other topics allowed under law. So that would allow the public to attend meetings. They would have to be posted, and meetings would have to be taken and also available for public review. They would have to schedule executive sessions. And I would think similarly to the way the selectmen or the select board performs an executive session, that minutes are taken.
Right.
It's just well after the purchase or the events or.
And they don't need to be released.
Right, you can determine when those get released, but much later in time, so it's not the conflict of, informing folks.
And it seems to be consistent with your research that it was never the intent of the select board to, it may have emphasized the need for executive session because of the nature of some of the business, but it was never the intent to.
Right, or, that was an argument, I think, that the corporation had at 2009, why they couldn't have,
All of
or
them.
they shouldn't be required to do the open meetings, but there's reasons why you need to do an executive session, but then again, I think our wording is trying to basically let the CHDC share what they're doing. I mean, it's wonderful work. The public should be informed as to the great things they're doing and the process they're going through, and letting liaisons come to the meeting if they have questions. They see the agenda. It's talking about a project in various parts of town, and different boards could have a liaison to attend or join in the conversation, so.
Sounds like it would only enhance the public's enthusiasm for any of those projects.
And I spoke with, I know one of the chairs of the Affordable Housing Corporation's here this evening. And they have their meeting tomorrow at 7, and I was planning to definitely attend and have that conversation with the corporation or the board, and see, you know, what they need to kind of get up to speed on this. I know the chairs have been supportive of holding public meetings and following that process. I don't think it's an issue there. So, you know, I think we just have to, as we did a couple of years ago, just that education process, the training, just getting people up to speed on the process to share that information, posting. And
I know there was an issue in the 2009 video about sort of staffing assistance or having, you know, that it wasn't totally a volunteer effort. Do they get any particular staffing? I know they get some funding, but that's more for...
Yeah, it's pretty much Beth from Regional Housing gives them some support on that. And then I do believe they work with the planning department. But why don't you come join us?
And please introduce yourself.
Jerry Evans.
So I guess the question was about the assistance with...
My concern is we're not necessarily giving you an extra burden, but it may be more than what you've been doing in terms of minutes and keeping all the sort of agenda correctly. And I just want to make sure we're not overburdening volunteers, that if you need support in some ways, that somehow that we get the feedback on that and see what we can do.
Right. So currently we use some of our money from the CPA to purchase time from RHSO to help us out. There was a time when the planning department was helping, but they no longer can do that for us. So we were going to work with Steve tomorrow night to find out, you know, what it is that we can get for support. But Liz Rust is going to work with us to get the minutes posted and then probably work on how to get the website, get somebody in town to help with the website to get everything up.
Right.
But we have no problem whatsoever complying with any of the open meeting laws or anything, as long as when we get done working with Steve, that it doesn't change the overall charter of some of the other areas that we need to operate in, which is either transactions of monetary funds or how we deal with subcontractors that we have from time to time have to do, so we don't have to do RFPs, but can execute what we need to do for housing without having to go through that. But open meeting wise, we have already started that several months back. We have a liaison who's been attending from West Concord Advisory. Don Detweiler has been there probably the last 4 or 5 months. We've received from the Finance Committee that they would like to probably send somebody over. Mary Hartman is coming Tuesday night. So we have no problem having people attending. It's great because we could use additional board members, and I'm happy to have anybody that wanted to come.
Great.
So can I ask for some clarifying language? I just realized that this was on the table. I agree with the permitting to schedule and hold executive sessions to discuss value of real estate.
Well, I was trying to give
About financial
examples.
value. So
Yeah,
if we have one or two examples, we have to be inclusive. So we should try and figure out what is it that we're trying to get at. There is state law for public entities for when we are permitted to hold executive sessions. I don't know if the same thing is for, a corporation with public funds. So I think we have to define it pretty closely. This one, to me, to discuss value could be the intrinsic value of property as opposed to the financial value of property that we're talking about. And it may not be in negotiations yet because you're at the pre-planning stage and you're just figuring out what the cost of a project is. So I think if it's in here, we should be a little more cautious about.
Okay.
I mean, I think the idea is right.
agree.
The idea is right.
We use the word land acquisition,
Right.
Yeah, okay.
so I just.
Land or real estate acquisition, because at times I think the
Real
CHC
estate,
may
yeah.
purchase real estate and decide to do something else with
Yeah.
it.
So I think, I will
Matters of
plead
land
ignorance, but I bet if we looked up the particular
The
chapters,
definition
it
of-
defines
Right.
what you
Right.
can and can't do.
So we should try to mimic that.
It might just need to say,
Matters
can
of
meet in
land acquisition
executive
and
session
real estate
as explained in Massachusetts General Law, Chapter
Yep.
61, Paragraph 8.
I think that's
Right,
right.
and it is that balance because the one thing that my draft has is the slight modification in 2009 where they describe the last list of bullet points, which is related to, is related to legislated and related long-term responsibilities and functions. So they have their kind of functions as a corporation, but then they're using town funds. So that's where, when they're in the town fund usage or expending or spending the town's monies, I think that's where the relationship is. Please hold public meetings so everyone understands where
Right.
Public monies are
dollars
going.
and, right,
Right.
exactly. So.
I agree.
I think if it was, a different type of project where there's no town funding, I think it's a different model or a different situation, but, I know even in 2009, the chair at the time, Jack McBride, was mentioning the only revenue stream was really
CPA.
CPA and some charitable donations, but
Right.
for the most part, CPA and,
Well, I really appreciate you getting this done. This came up in our Junction Village conversations, and the Housing Corporation agreed it's a time to begin to conduct their affairs and consistent with open meeting law. We agreed we'd try to get it codified.
absolutely.
So I think
Yeah.
that's grateful to you for doing that.
Absolutely.
I definitely thank Dory for that, helping us out here, getting us on track on this, so. I don't know if you guys, I can make some of those modifications, like just get the definition
Yep.
of
I think so, and
The
why
comment
not?
of
Commonwealth's
the law.
definition,
Yeah.
Right.
executive session.
Board of Selectmen, and then the comment that I made to you earlier, Steve, is really redundant because in their initial guidelines and short-term responsibilities and functions section, about halfway down in the second set of bullets, is in fact to report annually to the selectmen.
Right.
But I've only been on the board 3 years. I don't
I don't think that's.
ever remember a
No.
report. So I hope this year we can, especially given the next item on the agenda and what we're
Yes.
hoping to accomplish, we think we need to be a little more proactive
I
in
agree with
working with the corporation, helping, and
Remember to make that gender neutral.
Right, there are a number of,
But it's a carryover,
yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
no peanut gallery.
Okay, do we
Would-
want to?
Would it be okay if I made one more comment?
of course.
Yes.
So we haven't had a chance since town meeting to come before you, but the board, when they knew I was coming tonight, wanted to let you guys know that we really appreciate all that you did to help with the Junction Village project. And also by having Mr. Lawson do the presentation, it added a lot of weight to the overall effect of what we were trying to do. And so for that, we really thank you for your guidance and for your leadership on that. And so I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you for your work, too. I know the volunteer work is never thanked enough, and it's terrific work that you all do for us, so I'm grateful.
So do we want to try
I
and,
think I had a comment.
I apologize, I didn't,
Yeah, grab a mic. Grab a mic.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Whoops. And I thank you all, too, for taking this action, which I hope you will soon take. But I just had a quick question, and that is the posting of the minutes, which is important, which is really one of the things that most of us have wanted. Where is this posting to take place? With the town? It's not currently being done, as I understand it, with the town. it's
Right, there's a link on the website that
The
takes
CHBC?
you to
the RHS.
regional
Housing.
Right, but if,
website.
if someone is looking for meetings, they're looking often on the board downtown,
Calendar.
downstairs. So that needs to be clarified. I'd like you to do that at some point. And then is the issue of the posting of minutes. I do think that needs to be what, I think Mike's, we're phrasing about this sort of phrasing for land acquisition or whatever, but they're not only allowing executive sessions, which of course you would and should, but that there needs to be minutes kept, and then they're released at an appropriate time. And the other point is timely minutes. I think you'll agree with me that that's important, that minutes of meetings are released in a timely fashion. That has not necessarily been the case. I think the last ones were in February that are current with this year. So I would really like to urge that, again, in the idea of openness, all of the other boards have the pressure, and they're mostly volunteer boards. You are a volunteer board, though you have staff. But most boards and committees don't have staff, and they do the minutes themselves. And we post them, and we learn the routine and get them down and get them posted in time. So I think that's not something to feel like it's too much for anybody. But I'm very pleased that you're taking this action, and I think it will move much more of a coordinated, happy outcomes in the future. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Dory. All right. Do I hear a motion to?
Sure.
Well, Steve, a question. I'm happy to make a motion, but do you think there are enough, how would we phrase the motion? Substantially as drafted? Because we don't want to approve.
Something that is still.
Because you've got to get squared away around executive.
Or we're meeting next week if
Yeah,
we
but
have
it's
time in
it's
a
only
week
a week,
to.
so let
Let's
me
do
make
it
the
then.
edits and
Okay.
talk
Let's do
to
that.
the corporation, and we can make the formal.
Let's do it then.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
I don't think the corporation would have to be in attendance for that.
No,
No,
For
for
that.
approval of the meeting? Of the charge? No. I mean, you're welcome to.
No, I just wanted to make sure that Jerry understood we weren't drafting you for another Monday night.
no need for that. We'll
Thank
do it
you.
tomorrow. Thanks, guys. Thank you for,
Thank you.
Thank you. This was a
Consideration.
labor of love.
That's good.
All right, and it just seems to be your hot seat night.
yeah, it is.
So, on to the new.
So that timing was perfect to kind of hopefully get that aligned, get, a knowing, informing the public that that's kind of where you go to find out about affordable housing, or if you want to help out with that effort. Joining or becoming a member of that corporation is a wonderful place to do that, to make that difference. I made some modification. There were some comments from everyone from the original
Just
charge.
for the public's advantage.
Yeah.
Right now, we're discussing the review of the draft charge for the Affordable Housing Study Committee, which is in response to town meeting in April.
And some of the comments were about the charge being a little too focused on specifically on certain goals that were in the housing production plan, even setting a value. And I think just under duties and responsibilities, taking a step back with the general overall goals are to, essentially review the housing production plan, the 2015 housing production plan, and from that review, kind of the group can determine what they'd like to target out of those goals, what level, like you could check off Junction Village, because that's kind of on its way. But if they feel that some of the other management tools or solutions or directions to take seem more feasible or more easy, possible to achieve, I think that's where they set a value for, if it's purchasing single-family homes or trying to increase rental property units.
This new committee.
Yes.
Right.
And then that's all based out of in the housing production plan, and you can set a value to those, like set a target number of what you're trying to get funding for, and then jump into, well, where we're gonna find these monies, whether it's, you know, a variety of ways, from perhaps even just CPA funds. Maybe that's a catalyst to say, let's just raise that percentage, you know, and, or, you know, studying different ways of, whether it's fees or, maybe there's additional federal or state programs that enhance mortgage lending, or, you know, so that the total savings of, or funding you can achieve equals that amount. At least you can get more done than needing to wait, kind of build up your funding from CPA every year, and then, you know, try to take on one of the tasks from the report, so.
So I think, I get what you're saying, and I'm thinking that what we want is a continuous revenue stream that isn't dependent on CPA, and I think that's maybe inherent in what's discussed here, because if we're only trying to raise funds on a year-to-year basis to meet a particular goal, we may never get there. That we're looking for a way to generate revenue that will always be available to us. And I don't know how you do that. You know, the idea of gathering information and research is good. I'm thinking maybe we could include and look at what other communities have done and are doing.
That's in there, yep.
Is there in there?
Yeah, review other housing production plans from other MA communities,
I missed that.
investigate their models
Okay.
for funding housing
That's
efforts.
good. Where's that? I missed that.
It's on,
It's
under
like
D.
this.
Under D.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the motion Mr. Tarpey made, which was the impetus for this, is determining cost-effective means by which the town may fund the continuing expansion of the inventory of affordable housing. So it's not,
Not year by year.
it's
but-
not year by year, but some continuous mechanism
Right.
for providing.
It's almost,
funding.
you're better, it'll serve the effort if it's a steady kind of revenue stream,
Well,
or
this was
something you
passed by
can
This was
anticipate.
passed by town meeting, so this
Right.
is what we gotta
Right.
do.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think the group could definitely do their research, and then even, you know, the original citizens petition had a particular method, and we could look into that, try to dig into it, and see, check on its feasibility, whether it's maybe a broader way of generating revenue, but that's kind
Up
of,
with a list of options.
right.
Right.
We'll leave that up, we'll leave
I
that
hope we
up
can
to them.
approve this tonight, because it,
Yeah,
you
we've-
know, time flies.
Yeah.
And I think this was a
This
high
is
priority, and I
hard.
think we should,
It's, you know, it's a hard job, so.
There've been a number of people put in the green cards. to
Yeah.
I
be
don't think
members.
we'll
I've
have
got
trouble
them.
staffing the
So is
committee,
there a
but, you know, it
timeframe?
takes,
Does this
Well, to
sunset
make
at some
recommendations,
point? By
for
December is when
town meeting.
town meeting articles need to be prepared by December of this year. So is this a 6-month task force? Or 6 months plus? Because if, you know, there's the January
Ongoing.
meetings with the moderator to work out the language of, you know, I just want to make sure that we know that we're not seating a committee with an undetermined length of time.
no, what it says in here expires May 1,
Oh, it does? I didn't see that either.
2018,
Yes.
so.
Okay, I missed that,
And
thank you.
the stark reality, I don't want to put
No,
this
that's good.
idea in anybody's head, but the stark reality just of the timetable of all of this.
No, as long as the date, that's good.
I wouldn't surprise me if we wound up with a special town meeting inside the town meeting to kind of sweep up these things that are really
Well, we always
complicated.
have to do that, don't we?
It just seems really tough to be able to get
Yeah.
this done in that short
time
lot
frame.
to be done.
Right.
time.
So let's approve it
So
so we
let's
can
get,
get moving.
and it
Exactly.
takes us a month.
Clock is
Yeah,
ticking.
And I've got a week to get.
Even if we start next week, it takes us,
Yeah.
you know, we've got 2 meetings to appoint, and our next meeting is in August. I think.
Right, we've got a bit of a leap between next week.
So can we approve this, and then also can we have a slate? Do you think we could get a slate put together by next?
I would be,
I can share
I
with
imagine
everyone all
that
the
we've
green
got
cards we've
interest.
received. I've reached out to a few folks more to just make sure it's like, if it's finance issue, then it's more for that type of person. But if they're more interested in affordable housing, we can kind of direct them, you know, are you interested in joining the corporation? And just overall
Mm-hmm.
join the
Make
cause.
sure that
So-
the purpose of the committee is reflected in the people that we see.
Right.
All right, do I hear,
As soon as I get to it, you'll hear.
is there, I should ask, are there any comments? Okay. So,
I move to approve the charge of the Affordable Housing Study Committee as drafted.
funding committee,
Huh?
Affordable Housing Funding Committee.
This one says. It says
Study,
study.
yep, sorry,
Which do we want this to be called?
yes.
Study committee.
believe-
I'd go for study committee.
Yeah,
I think study comes out of the town meeting, so I think study it is,
Study and then as amended.
as amended.
Then we'll just-
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, you got that right.
Did
Okay.
we actually vote on the CHGC charge?
No, we're going to do it
Oh,
Monday.
next week, right. Sorry. I'm on vacation. It's hard.
Excellent. All right. So now we have the review of our board goals, which I circulated to all of you. And would welcome any discussion and comments. I tried to include not just our standing approaches, which are valuable, but also to reflect some of the things that we're moving forward on right now. And I would love feedback. See
I'll
where
give
we
you
can
some
take this.
feedback, having done it last year and know how hard it is to
Get
do
people.
this. I thought you did an excellent job capturing what we're planning to do. You've incorporated the new stuff that we're talking about, got rid of some of the things we've already got finished, so I was quite happy with it.
I know I noted that I have placed the comprehensive long-range plan and the EFTF follow-up in two places, and I would look to my colleagues' guidance on where we think they best belong.
So why don't we, do you want this approved tonight? Because I think that's hard to negotiate.
No, I would be happy to
can
take
send you
comments and
comments by Monday
we can
night.
review it again. Or we
But,
can.
I mean, we can talk through,
yeah.
but when you're asking us
Yeah.
a question, do they belong here or there?
Right.
You're likely to get 5 different responses at
I
a discussion.
I reviewed a draft of this very early on that Jane did, and that was a comment I had,
Okay.
was there were 2 or 3 items that showed up in both places, and on reflection, so what? So they belong, I mean, it's consistent with the outline of the goals that they would show up in 2 places. I don't think we should worry about that.
It was just a question that you raised.
Yeah.
Right.
So I don't think we should worry about it.
Okay.
I think what makes the list so successful is you look at it and it's a lot of work, so you don't want to add more stuff to it.
Oh, we don't do the work.
Right.
We've got a lot to do here.
So,
So I mean, I think it's perfect. Different scale type issues to address, and continuing some of the efforts that, all of us have been working on.
Okay.
so just let me ask, number 2.
Yep.
We had, at one point, we have done, number 2 reads, provide guidance and resources for all town volunteers serving on boards and commissions to improve consistency and efficiency of public meetings and hearings. We did do a one-time education program at the high school. Is this intended to suggest that it's time to do it again?
I would imagine
Yes.
I'd like to see
I'm
that.
meeting with the new town clerk. It was Anita
Yep.
that worked with me and you and
Yep,
Elise, I
yep,
think.
yep.
And so we tried to do it last year, remember, and Carmen. We did it last year, but then the town clerk was ill and we just
Yep.
didn't get an in-court booth left. So she and I had agreed to just the 2 of us meet and see if we can get stuff
That's
piled
good.
up and then
So one question would be, would it be wise to give it a annual nature? Or do we want to just leave this as provide guidance with the knowledge that that's a repeated effort?
Well, when we last talked about it, the idea was that you remember the one we did before was like a half day. And the thinking going forward was some parts of that don't really change much and are fact-based. Do this, don't do that, you gotta do these things. And others are more process-oriented. And the thinking was if we could get recorded on tape the nuts and boltsy kind of things, and then constrain the on-site education to the process-oriented. That last session that I
You
did.
did.
That was called "What Could Possibly Go
Yeah.
Wrong?"
Right.
That kind of.
Which one
Oh,
is
nothing,
breaks
never.
It was fine, but I mean, that's the kind of thing that's messy. You never would
It-
want to
right.
do that.
And
But
it changes.
maybe open meeting law, maybe, some of those things. So the idea was to be able to shrink it so it was a couple hours and then be able to put stuff up online
Yep.
that could be videos, it could be printed documents. So what I'd like to do is come back to you guys with a plan,
Okay.
right? And then whether we have it as an annual event or what, I don't know.
Right.
I think they already, don't we have to do every 2 years, the open meeting?
You have to
and
do the
conflict
state
of
ethics
interest
Have to
training.
do an
That's
ethics
stuff.
training every
And
time.
That's
that's
true
a
for
pretty
all.
effective. I like the way they do that.
It's true. That's,
Well, that's
it's
part of it.
required.
Everybody's supposed to do
Right,
that.
Yeah.
anybody on a committee.
Am I mistaken? Didn't we videotape the entire half-day
We
event? Is that something we should consider editing
Editing.
rather than
I
retaping?
don't know, but it's a good question. But I think what we were thinking about for the ones that could be taped is we'd get in the CCTV studios and do it more as a
Kind of
kind
like
of
the ethics training is done by the state.
effective.
Well, in fact, I think the comprehensive long-range plan interview process that was recently done with the two chairs
Yeah.
was a really effective sort of,
So I'll get back to you with
Yeah,
current
good.
thinking, and then maybe we could figure out a short, small committee, get somebody from one of the schools and a couple of us, and see if we can get something done.
so does that provide guidance on the timing that we want to put in this? Or are we comfortable that this is?
Like
this-
September or what?
No, I should think annual
Oh.
or.
We want to add the word
biannual.
I think you just
biannual,
have to
annual.
assess it annually. You always have to think about, are there a lot of new
think it's an
committee
ongoing
members,
goal.
then we should do
I
it.
think it sounds
Yeah.
good, yeah.
Okay.
The language of the Estabrook Woods Access Study Committee, that there's a continued conversation, correct, on all aspects of the Estabrook
Yeah.
Woods.
Yeah, we-
So this, am I reading the wrong thing? Item number
No.
5.
Yep.
Continue to support the recommendations. If, I'm uncomfortable with that, if there's ongoing conversations about how to alleviate the stress on Estabrook Woods being discussed, and we're aligning ourselves to just one set of recommendations, we may be boxed in our negotiations and conversations with, other areas that we're looking at, Punkatasset and what happens at Punkatasset or teaching of the trustees or, further on down on Monument Street.
Well, maybe that answers the question about that particular repeated issue, because if we go down to maintaining Concord's unique character, we discuss it a little bit. And here, we're saying continue to engage Concord in implementing Estabrook Woods Access Study Committee recommendations where possible, and work with private landowners and abutters and resolve legal
I
or,
think something like that needs to be in there, Alice, because we adopted the recommendations of the Estabrook, so we own them now, right?
Well, we didn't, it's like we also adopted the Town Governance Study Committee, but we didn't agree to do absolutely everything in the Town Government Study
No.
Committee. I don't want this to be the limiting factor. If new conversations arise over time as we continue the dialogue on Estabrook Woods, I don't want to be hemmed
Yeah.
in by, these are the recommendations that we're going to abide by, and not have the flexibility to look broadly if there's a newer, better idea. And if something comes up at at town meeting this year that we want to consider, that we would have an option to opine if there's another article that comes.
So what
forward.
would you do with it?
I like the language, I think you have further down to me,
Right.
feels right. I might, where was that?
Under balance, under
Uh,
number four.
Balance, yeah. No, not under balance.
It's under
Unique character.
Unique character.
Continue to engage Concord in solutions to Esterbrook Woods, or implementing Esterbrook where possible. And it's not just the legal right-of-way concerns, but to increase access to the wood.
No,
I mean,
because part of our recommendation was to do something at Punkatasset to try to create some, and that's still, that's still
Right.
being worked on. So we're not on Monument Farm.
So you're thinking this language is inclusive enough for you?
I think for me, it's inclusive enough because we still got things we're working on, but it's still under that umbrella. And we're not, I don't think we're constrained in any particular way.
This doesn't, it was certainly not written into intend to limit. It was intended to be a little bit more articulate about some of the things that we're working on.
We're really going to be relying on the NRC to come back to us with a solution to Punkatasset, and that's also going to be connected to dogs and.
Which is why I went on to discuss working with the Natural Resources Committee on balancing dog-friendly access and ecosystem protection on conservation lands, and then reviewing and pursuing establishing dog-designated parks. I also think just want to reiterate, right now, I think that it's actually in our court, that Punkatasset is currently in our court because Public Works is looking at bearing parking options as well. So I don't think it's just in the NRC's court.
Did the NRC decide what they wanted to do last
No, we haven't
time?
seen that report yet.
Oh.
So, and I think, I just want to
Okay,
be
yeah.
clear, in case that's confusing.
I'd be ready to move to,
So let me ask one more question. There is the question mark on number 7, which is the Paul Benson
Yes.
Fund. This is an ongoing conversation
Right.
at the Historical Commission, which the town has engaged an architect whose expertise is historical renovation, to categorize and inventory every piece that's sitting in those trucks. So there's activity going on. So pursue analysis of the condition, continue the analysis, or seek to.
Continue.
It is being pursued, and somebody has been engaged by the town to do that for us, and the board has gone and seen the pieces of the barn, and they're assessing the condition with this specialist.
slide continue in there.
Yep, I'll then continue analysis.
Yep.
And remove the
Yes,
parens.
thank you. Thank you.
Yes.
So I move to approve the 2017-18 Select Board goals as amended then.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
I think that was the fastest approval.
Boards,
of board
both.
goals.
Well, that speaks to having a good template.
Or a chair.
All right, so I think we are now due to have an update on our proposed MBTA monopoles for wireless service. And my understanding is that we are now that the MBTA has postponed that they're under review by the MBTA because of the public concerns that were issued, led by a number of municipalities, and Concord was very happy to sign on and support in that. We also did receive a number of letters from concerned abutters, and I think that's important. I think that this time frame, this time we now have, should be used so that people for public education, so that those who are nearby the proposed polls are more aware of this process. And I think it was it 30 days? That's what
30-day extension?
30-day extension.
For the comment letters or for their?
No, that they're under review, so.
30 days.
30 day.
Yep.
Right. we'll
So
continue.
nothing else really for us to do at this time?
No, I think we're just,
So this did get coverage in the Boston Globe and on
Yes.
NPR.
yeah. Mhm. As did several other actions. Um,
Great.
So, it's always nice to join others, other municipalities and
Have an effect.
have an effect, exactly.
Strength in numbers.
Yes, exactly. All right. I think, well, now we're at public comments. Now, I know we've sort of taken them as we've gone. Are there,
You know,
Like private
did I
partnership.
miss something?
Yep.
Oh, how did I possibly do that? And I'm sure that there'll be public comments on that. So, shall we look to review the public the P3 policy?
You can see why I got that name.
Yes, exactly. Too many Ps. Now, we have a number of,
the SBP4.
yes. We have a document that, we have two.
Yeah.
Two amendments.
Yes, and now I would look to the liaison, Tom.
Well, I think the last meeting when Jean Goldsberry was representing the P3, she made two proposals. One was under the all-new proposed partnerships. Item number 2, to read that the Select Board will hold a public meeting for any new public-private partnerships over $150,000 to help ensure that the public is aware of the proposed partnership. The earlier one just said that the town manager would report or bring the matter to the attention.
Right.
And I think the thought was that by having a public meeting, that would allow the public participation. Guarantee at an earlier point. Under existing partnership, changed bullet number 4 to read, on an annual basis, the town manager will review all existing partnerships at a public meeting. Again, the notion being a public meeting rather than just having a report to the board. But I think otherwise, all of the, we really went along, except for the one provision of having a separate P3 committee. This pretty much tracks what the recommendations were.
I think both of those changes that were proposed by Jean are great, but I have one question about the last one. What I would envision is that the town manager would prepare a report and submit it to the board, and it would be an item on an agenda.
That's a
But-
good point.
Right.
But
Very
we're
good.
not required to go through every
Right, yeah.
public-private partnership. People could raise questions about any one they want,
Yeah.
Right.
but we're not going to sit here and go through a bunch of stuff unless there are issues. Is that,
It's a great list for the public to see, you know.
it's fine.
It'll
no,
be fully accessible to
no,
anyone.
just the specific language that you,
It allows the public an opportunity to come and raise any issues at that point.
That's fine.
But it wouldn't be, as you described, it wouldn't be a general go through each single
like
one.
they do at CPC, where we go through each.
Right.
one of them. That's fine. Then I move we accept these two amendments and adopt the public-private partnership policy.
Let me just
sorry.
make sure that there's no comments from the public with reference to this. Okay.
Diane Proctor, 57 Sudbury Road. Where are those amendments noted in the documents that are available for the public?
They were provided on the letter dated June 16th of 2017 from the Public-Private Partnership Committee. They submitted a,
So it's embedded in that? the
Yes.
letter?
Right.
Okay, thank you very much. I apologize. Having
No,
read it
not at
all
all.
through, I couldn't find it. Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thanks for that, Tom.
absolutely.
Two amendments and then change for town manager needs to do a report.
No,
That's
that
one
was
of the- I
just
think that's one of
the
the
intent.
amendments.
It's fine the way it is.
Yep.
find a way there.
All right. Are there any other public comments? Any public comments?
Yep, I think we have one.
Okay. There we go.
We're going to be best buddies. My name's Janet Benvenuti, 35 Jonas Brown Circle. I just have one quick question. This is the first time I've heard about the select board goals, and where do they get posted afterwards? So,
That's a really good question,
Well,
aside from our minutes.
They're on the,
I think they're on,
town
Can we put them
website.
on the board's webpage?
absolutely.
They were
I guess
on
I had assumed that they
They
were on
they
the
were.
They are there.
Yeah.
They've been taken down because there's another draft coming out, but they were on the board.
okay, great.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's
Yep.
it. Thank you.
Yep.
Well, we're a well-oiled machine.
Thank you, Kate.
And thank you for looking for them. Yeah. Okay. So liaison reports. Busy summer?
I can start because I was away.
I'll second that.
Sorry about it.
Bruce Friedman Rail Trail Advisory Committee met on July 6th. There's already been a brief report by the town manager. The Phase 2C, the Powder Mill Road culvert removal and replacement, there's going to be, Powder Mill Road will be closed, I believe, from today.
Today,
Through August 31st. There was an update on the various Phase 2A, B, and C. There was also discussion about when that the updates will be on their report. They have been periodically sending in articles to the Concord Journal, which have been updating the public, and they're making an effort to do as much as they can to make sure people are aware. And they also then reported or assigned liaisons to the West Concord Advisory Committee, the Trail Committee, the White Pond, and they're going to be coordinating with the Council on Disability regarding issues that may be affected there. So. And their next meeting is going to be August 3rd.
Alice?
I was also on vacation, but I managed to squeeze in a few meetings. I attended the NRC hearing on dogs. Actually, Tom was there as well.
Thank you for doing that.
Tom was there as well. It was a very, very well attended, standing room only meeting. And there were some really interesting and good comments. I think they ran a whole gamut of concerns and interests. I think it was a good hearing, and I think it was handled very well.
I thought Judy did an excellent job of laying out what their charge was and why, and it was very open.
Right.
And I think people felt comfortable giving their various points of view.
The Board of Health, there has been quite a lot of activity recently, and we've invited them, I believe, to attend next meeting.
next.
So they have a presentation for us about the general construct of the Board of Health, and I know we also sent to them a number of particular issues that we're interested in hearing from. So if any on issues that we're interested in hearing on. So I think that if anybody has particular interest beyond what we've submitted, this would be a good meeting to understand how our Board of Health operates and the jurisdiction that they work under and the huge framework under which they work.
Alice, is this information for us, or are they going to propose some
It's
change?
information for us, and for us if we have specific questions, but they are extremely active, from the polystyrene bylaw implementation to managing the restaurants inspection
sure.
program to.
The
betterments
polystyrene
for-
went into effect July 1.
Right.
Right.
So there's a lot of activity, managing or an outreach campaign for ticks and mosquitoes and vector-borne diseases. You know, there's a lot of stuff on their plate.
Are they doing anything on the marijuana issue?
Not since town meeting. We know we have a reprieve for.
That's right.
In fact, we were noted in the Globe this Sunday
Oh, we were?
as one of the towns. that had-
Councilors over, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that. And the last thing I did, I attended the White Pond Advisory Committee. As you know, White Pond has had another outbreak of cyanobacteria, which is now over temporarily, as far as we know, but it's an ongoing conversation. very interested group of citizens monitoring it.
Okay.
I believe, I didn't report this last, but attended Hanscom Field Advisory Committee. The one big thing at Hanscom is, I think later this summer, they're planning on repaving one of the runways, one of the major runways, similar to what Logan did, unfortunately, for everyone's flying schedules this past couple of months. But it's a lot less time. It's like 30 days versus the 80 days of that runway getting shut down at night and causing schedule problems. So there's a couple of nights they were scheduling shutdown, so it may be a little quieter around here. But that was all. But noise levels were nothing causing concern out there, and everything else was doing pretty well.
And I'm not the official liaison, I did go, I think, along with Jane to the picnic in the park on the 4th.
Right.
So that was, I think, a big success. So
Exactly.
congrats and thanks to everybody who contributed.
Yes. It's another great Concord Rec sponsored event.
Nice event.
Yes. Well, I've, as Allison and Tom very nicely went to the
Took two of us to cover for you.
to the next dog discussion will be on the 12th. So I will be there at 7:30 a.m. at 141 Kai's. There have been, I also attended a comprehensive long-range plan committee meeting, which was just moving things forward. We are expecting to work more closely with Civic Moxie, our consultant, to engage in public awareness events throughout the town. I think we were hoping to do a little bit more at the picnic in the park, but I suspect that was not the right day for anyone to be discussing serious business about town planning. I also attended an NRC meeting, and I'm happy to say it was fairly quiet and pro forma. So.
Good.
All right. How about a miscellaneous correspondence? Now, I know we've received a letter from Mr. Stevens that he also copied to the board and sent as a letter to the editor to the Concord Journal. And we also have received letters regarding, let's see, I think we got one today, right? Andrew?
We got one today?
Regarding the monopole.
Monopoles, yeah.
Oh, monopole, yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
I missed that one. That came today?
Yes,
Yeah,
that came
this
today.
afternoon.
And I hope the abutters are listening and
That was a very informative letter.
Yeah, it was very
an
well.
excellent letter.
And I have one, Alice and I trying to follow up on the neonicotinoid pollinator one. Met with Mark Hansen. We have a draft of the charge, which I gave you a copy of
Right.
tonight to Andrew. And so if we can, if
Put
it
it on the
can be
agenda.
accommodated, I'd like to get at least a first reading of it on our agenda for the 17th. And then hopefully we can get it approved and get on with this.
Great. Any other correspondence? Okay. I think we're on to committee nominations.
I nominate Wendy Ravelli of 42 Bow Street to the Financial Audit Advisory Committee as the Municipal Light Board member for a term to expire May 31st, 2018.
Second,
All in favor?
we give her a whole few months off after leaving the
Yeah.
finance.
Get back to work.
No rest.
Committee appointments. I move to appoint Sally Clutter of 80 Dalton Road to the Hugh Cargill Trust Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. John Kratzley of 10 Edmonds Road to the Community Preservation Committee as Select Board Representative for a term to expire May 31st, 2021.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And Mr. Kratzley is also someone we don't let disappear for any length of time.
Not a chance.
Yep.
Committee reappointments, move to reappoint Marianne Lippert of 19 Cranberry Lane to the Conservation Restriction Stewardship Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Stanley Black of 17 Edmonds Road
Here's another one. we
for
don't
the
get to.
Tax Relief Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2019. Nancy Crowley of 5 Concord Green, number 7, to the Personnel Board for a term to expire May 31st, 2019. And Ellen Quackenbush of 206 Prairie Street to the Personnel Board for a term to expire May 31st, 2020.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah, we seem to be very good at keeping great minds at work.
They have such fun.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
And for town manager appointments, I move to, there's no discussion on this, right? Just
No.
make the motion.
Just-
Move to confirm town manager appointment Sam Lines of 137 Fairhaven Road to the Comprehensive Sustainable Energy Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. Douglas Sharp of 401 Silver Hill Road to the Comprehensive Sustainable Energy Committee for a term to expire May 31st, 2020. And Andrea Oki of 12 Stone Root Lane to the Board of Assessors for an unexpired term to expire May 31st, 2019.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Second.
Okay, I think this might be a record, 8:25.
It's still light out.
Not that I want to stop the rock.
Got a lot
but
done,
I
too.
thought that you all wanted an update in executive session on union negotiations, but I just noticed that.
Well,
It's not posted.
that didn't seem to
posted.
make
Okay,
it, so,
I will put that on. Since-
Next, on the
Yes.
17th.
yes.
7 days.
By the way, why can't I get on the internet? Is
I-
it Concord
it's-
Guest? One word, capital C and G?
Concord